Hey, family. Welcome back to the channel. Right, well, I had to take a break from the gardening. I've been out there double fencing and fortifying, trying to keep them animals out. It's really just the chipmunks and some rabbits. I'm gonna post some pictures I took on the community page, but yeah, I got a thorn in my finger, so I can't do any more work right now. It's kind of tender. I got a lot of it out, but it's still a piece in there. And I got it soaking with some Epsom salt paste, whatever. So it'll bring it to the surface, it says. Lady said in a video. But other than that, I said, yeah, well, I might as well make a video. So I hope you guys like the board back there. That's I learned that and got all that information from Santos Bonacci, syncretism. I don't know if y'all know about synchronism. It's called syncretism. Yeah. It's where you put everything side by side. You just add it all. You don't throw nothing out, not the baby or the bathwater. Um, it's red and blue. That's called a hyperbola. Hyperbola. It's called, but it's red and blue. It's the universe. It's how everything goes. Santos can explain it. So if you don't know about Santos Bonacci, start looking for him. He used to have a website called Mr. Astro's Theology, but I don't know. A lot's happened. They're taking him down everywhere. So, but Santos Bonacci, that's who you want to look up if you want to find out about syncretism. And but I love it. It's got the chakras, the different petals, how many petals. It's got everything. That's the root. That's the root of all knowledge. Atun. All is Atun. Oh, and this is my staff. I've had her for like 10 years. I finally carved her after I found the Megillah and was reading about Herman and his healing staff. But this was just a stick that was laying in the park when I took my son to the park one day. And what do you know? She became my rod and my staff. And she comforts me. So sometimes I have her on camera and sometimes I don't. But I'm just resting up today. I got cut by some glass trying to save a fly. I'm telling you, yo, this Megillah, man, it's to turn me into some kind of I don't know. I be saving flies and trying to prevent animals from eating plants, and all this stuff is going on now. But I'm getting a little beat up, but that's okay. The harvest is gonna be grand, and I'll take some pictures. But now my little Yah's way, it looked like a jail cell now. I got like 3 fences because those things are so small. The chipmunks, and there's some baby rabbits too. They can slide through too. But anyhow, they ate up everything else that's not protected. But I'm not worrying about that though. Can't worry about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the last video I made, just what she said, because it's the reason why I'm out here telling the eagles you got the wrong body. I'm trying to scare these big birds out of these little birds' nests because it's happening all in front of my eyes now. And the way I'm looking at nature is not the same that I used to before I read this Holy Megillah. You see, and I also wanted to show you this picture I took when I was um, sun gazing, watching the sunset the other day. This is freaking awesome. This is right out of my living room window. And there's a whole lot of chemtrails you can see. But the cloud or whatever this was, it was just like a few little dark spots at first. But they were chemtrail and I kept watching it the whole time. I watched the sun. It was way up here in the sky and it set down. Well, I don't have a picture of the whole sky, but it was way over here. And by the time it got down here was when all this happened. So it was like 2 or 3 hours. And then um, What does it look like? That looks like a face to me. And she actually looks like a female. I don't know why. Maybe it's this, but this is a chemtrail. There's another one. There's one above her, and then there's one like coming out of her stomach. But it goes all the way through her if you look, because they were trying to block that sun. They did not want me to get this sunset, but she helped, in my opinion. So I want to read a little bit from the last video what she said to the snake, man, because let me tell you, I was like, she said, no god or goddess created fangs or claws. But first she says, many people think like you. And I think she's only like 5 years old at this time talking to this snake. She says they look at nature and see the strong eating the weak and think that the creator intended this killing, but that is wrong. Lo Elohim creates souls, not body types. Then, according to the thoughts and the deeds of each soul, the soul is clothed by the form that matches its deeds. Whoa, right? She goes on and says, vicious souls will take on vicious forms, not because God intends it, but because vicious souls desire forms suitable to their viciousness. So she says, I tell you truly, no god or goddess created fangs or claws. Rather, Elohim creates souls, and souls create their own body types according to their thoughts and deeds. So I've been telling some eagles this outside. There was a few of them out there. They was up in the sky, call, gone away, and I was like, you're in the wrong body, homie. But yeah, man. There's also somewhere else where it made mention about these birds of prey. I can't remember. I think it was where the Magdalene's lying, um, where Yeshua defeated those 7 attackers that were trying to getting ready to rape Miriam. And then after he defeated them, it says the evil spirits went back into turn into vultures or something. They took their original form, which was like, I think it says vultures, but I don't want to say it is, and it's not. But anyhow, that was what I wanted to share from the last video, because we're going in to talk about Daniel and the lion's den, and there's a lot of talking about these animals in the book of Noah. We got a talking parrot, and we got a lion that knows that Daniel is there to help uh, set him free, so he don't eat Daniel because he was told by the parrot. But listen, this is great because the more I read, like I said, my entire view of this reality has changed. And even when I was cutting down some girdling vines, it reminded me of the seraphim and said that they're not from this galaxy, you know. They're from another galaxy, and um, they had children here. So we're gonna get started now. 1 second, I think I'm gonna leave that picture of the cloud up while I read from this Megillah, the book of Noah. We're in chapter 9. That's page 270. Nazarean Bible of the Essene Way. I'm going to try to read fast, but video might be pretty long. So it starts out, behold, the Lord and the lady had declared unto Noah that on the morning after the next full moon they would banish Lucifer from this world. Lucifer and his seraphim would be made to leave this world in their sky ships, never to return. But the children they made in this world cannot be banished, for they are native to this world. It says that that's what Lucifer does. He tampers with the seed. He tampered with it in the garden, planted his own tree, um, and they that's their children as well. That's what I'm saying. So there may even be some plants and things that ain't even from this world. I heard a lot of stuff in my life, but what I'm saying is from the Megillah, it's really, listen. Lucifer and his seraphim would be made to leave this world in their sky ships, never to return. But the children they made in this world cannot be banished, for they are native to this world. Wherefore, though the Lord and the Lady would deal with Lucifer and the seraphim, Noah and his army must deal with the children of Lucifer and the seraphim, which numbered in the thousands, and the armies commanded by Sargon, though they must be disarmed and disbanded, and their slaves must be freed. Behold, the Lord and the Lady warned Noah that the banishment of Lucifer from this world would not prevent his influence in this world, for lo, his physical banishment would not prevent his spiritual influence. Yea, those who choose to have inner contact with Lucifer and do his bidding cannot be prevented. But his physical banishment would limit his intervention in this world enough to preserve the choice. For lo, each being must be free to choose good or evil, and his physical banishment would be enough to preserve the chance. That chance is the possibility that this fallen world might again be raised into the heavenly hierarchy of ascending worlds, but that outcome would be long in the making. For the war of Noah was truly but one battle in a much larger war, a war that would span the history of this world even unto the last days. And though the seraphim would be banished, other species of demons would still roam the earth, some embodied, some disembodied. Yea, knowing all these things, Noah launched his war. He knew that the island of Attila would be submerged beneath mighty waters, for he had seen it in a vision. Wherefore he knew that the slaves and animals on the island must be saved. And so before launching the war, he sent Nasarean lions to the island posing as slaves to prepare the slaves for their rescue. Yea, Daniel, Mishael, and Azariah, Nazarene lions of Zion, let themselves be captured by seraphim slavers, and their story is as follows. So we're now in chapter 10, the book of Noah. It says, though the seraphim had sky ships, they were not used to bring new slaves to the island of Attila. For that, large wooden ships that sailed on water were used. Noah instructed Ezekiel, the chief of the Nasarean lions, to discover where the next slave ship would land, yea, and to have 3 Nazarene lions let themselves be captured so as to infiltrate the ranks of the slaves on the island of Attila. Ezekiel, upon discovering where the next slave ship would land, asked for 3 volunteers from amongst his lions. Behold, Daniel, Mishael, and Azariah, 3 brave lions of Zion, volunteered. Letting themselves be captured by the slavers, they were placed upon a slave ship. But lo, they discovered that they were to be taken not to Attila, but to another land to work in mines. Wherefore Daniel said to Mishael and Azariah, behold, if we let it be known that we are Nazarenes, the captain of the ship will take us to Attila to be questioned, for Lucifer will reward him for bringing such a prize. Yea, and will punish him if he does not. For lo, Lucifer gloats over every captured Nazarean. And so, when the slavers brought the slaves their daily meal, which was a piece of raw meat, the 3 lions made a show of refusing the meat. Yea, they declared in a loud voice, we are Nazareans, we do not eat flesh. And when the captain of the slave ship was told, he declared, we must take them to Attila, for such is the will of the Lord God. All right, I'm going to jump over to King James real quick, and the book of Daniel. This is chapter 1. This is when Daniel was telling them, listen, then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. So this pulse is vegetables. Go check that out real quick. It's Strong's Hebrew number 2235, Zeroah, which made me think of the zero and knee star, right? Which, I'll just, so it was vegetables. I mean, this is a Hebrew word that means vegetables, pulse. So Daniel said, just give us pulse and water. And the guard was worried about it because he thought they were going to look all weak and everything, but they didn't. It says, at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. Right? In the King James, it was recorded that Daniel didn't eat meat either. That's synchronism, y'all. You just find all the things that are similar, and you can, you know, look at things that way instead of focusing on all the things that are different. The lady, and it's so funny when we were kids, and my mom used to tell us that the lady was coming all the time. She would knock on the wall. The lady was the boogeyman for us, and I don't know who she really meant, but she would say the lady's coming. My kids knew about the lady because I had my first kid at 18, so I think my youngest sister was 10, and she was still scared of the lady, so we started using the lady on my kids. But it don't work no more. I would tell them about the real lady, the Lord and the Lady Christ now. Man, all right. I'm sorry. I'm kind of chilling right now because I've been working all morning. I'm relaxed. I should, and one second, I'm going to share with you this picture of Daniel in the lion's den I found. I like it. He got locks. It's tied up. But mind you now, it's three of them that get thrown in here according to the Holy Megillah. So let's keep going. We were at verse 15 because they just declared in a loud voice, we are Nazarenes and we do not eat flesh. So when they arrived at Attila, the Nazarene lions were sickened by what they saw. For behold, this island was full of evil doings. The air was foul from dark fumes that burned the eyes. Much of the forest was cut down to make room for huge herds of animals for meat. Terrified slaves toiled at unseemly works. Those who slowed their labor were hung by their feet and butchered for meat to feed the Canaanite cannibals that guarded them. And the Canaanites were under watchful eyes of the seraphim soldiers, for no humans, not even the Canaanites, were fully trusted. Wherefore the numbers of human soldiers on the island was kept to a minimum for fear of a rebellion. And that is also why Lucifer made them into cannibals, for behold, this tightened his control over their weakened minds. The three Nazarene lions, Daniel, Mishael, and Azariah, were taken to the castle of mixing called Babel, which was a great evil. At this place the essence of one creature was mixed with that of another, and loathsome monsters were made. Also at this place important prisoners were questioned and tortured, which was why the Nazarenes were brought there. As they were marched through the castle, they saw all kinds of evil, sorcery, and wickedness, yea, and they saw many cages filled with animals and some filled with humans. Vile experiments were conducted on some, and others were used for religious sacrifices. The Nazarenes were placed in a cage between two other cages. In one cage to the right was a lion, and this lion was not of the human Nazarene kind, but was an animal of the jungle. And in the cage to their left were birds awaiting experimentation. To Daniel's surprise, he knew one of the birds, a colorful talking parrot that often rode on the shoulders of Pen. The bird looked at them knowingly but said nothing. That's Peter Hoppen. He is a nature defender and he's immortal, so he got this talking parrot. Though it says, lo, though Daniel knew it not, the Nazarene lions were not the first to infiltrate the island of Attila. For behold, the birds of Pen's army had already come. Yea, they had served as spies, bringing messages to Pen, Noah, and Shimerith. And these birds had spread word. Shimerith was the leader of the Zero Ani Star. That's why I said it's funny that that word pulse in the King James is Zeroa. I mean, Daniel and them. Yeah, the synchronicities, guys. It says, so they had served as spies, these birds of Pen's army, bringing messages to Pen, Noah, and Shimerith. And these birds had spread word amongst the animals on the island of the coming battle for their liberation, yea, and had enlisted many to their cause. For Noah had seen in a vision a part to be played by these animals, and had sent the words by the birds. Sent the words by the birds. For 7 days the Nazarean lions refused the meat they were offered, preferring hunger to flesh. Then came Lucifer to gloat over his hungry prisoners. Lucifer had no idea that a major rebellion was in the making, neither had he any knowledge that he was about to be banished from this world, but he wanted to obtain information from these Nazareans on the whereabouts of Nazarean encampments. Yea, and he wanted to know the total number of Nazareans that yet survived, for with this information he could hurry their extermination. Behold, Lucifer questioned the Nazarenes, but received no information. Instead, when he asked them questions, they responded by quoting passages from Nazarean scripture. When the three Nazarean lines refused to give Lucifer their names, he said, I will give you new names as I do all of my slaves. To Daniel he gave the name Shadrach, which means servant of Aku. For Aku was the seraphim in charge of training slaves. Lucifer mocked Daniel, saying, Aku will teach you good manners. To Mishael he gave the name Meshach, which means I am weak. For lo, this was Lucifer's way of mocking Mishael. For Mishael was a huge man, the strongest of the Nazareans. Lucifer told him, you who were once strong have become weak and powerless in my cage. To Azariah he gave the name Abed-Nebo, Abed-Nebo, which means servant of Nebo. And this was Lucifer's way of mocking Azariah, for since caged in this castle, Azariah had been very vocal in refusing the daily meat, whereas Daniel and Mishael silently refused to eat the meat. Azariah had delivered a discourse to the guards on the evils of eating flesh. Nebo was the seraphim in charge of animal sacrifice in the temple on Attila. Lucifer mocked Azariah, saying, you will become the servant of Nebo. Yea, you will learn the joy of animal sacrifice. So I'm wondering if this Nebo is the same as Nebuchadnezzar, because then that would tell us that Nebuchadnezzar was a seraphim. But it don't say all that, but I'm just wondering that. And because we were reading from the book of Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar about the toes that were mixed with iron and clay in the Seraph artificial video, if you remember. That's also in the book of Daniel. And so this is all connected still. That's kind of why these videos are flowing the way they are. I have a lot more to say about these Seraph artificials, but we're going to keep going. Verse 66. Then Lucifer ordered that the three Nazarenes be beaten, that they might answer his questions. After they were beaten and still did not answer his questions, he ordered that they be tortured with staffs of fire. After they were tortured and still did not answer his questions, Lucifer became enraged. He shouted, do you see that lion in the cage next to you? We have kept it hungry, not feeding it for days. If you will not answer my questions, you will be thrown into the lion's den. When the three Nazarean lions still refused to answer his questions, Lucifer screamed, give them to the lion. The three Nazareans were put into the cage of the hungry lion. When the lion did not immediately begin to kill and eat them, Lucifer told the guards, send word to me when the lion begins to eat them. Then he stormed out of the room. But the lion did not eat them, for behold, the talking parrot who often rode on the shoulders of Pan had spoken to the lion. Yea, the lion knew that these Nazareans were enemies of his captors and that they had come to free the animals of Attila. The parrot began talking to the guard, saying, do you have a wife? I would make a great gift for your wife. Save me from these experiments and take me as a gift to your wife. The guard considered this and then said, a talking bird would be a good gift for my wife. I will take you home tonight. That night, when the guard took the parrot from the cage and carried him outside the castle, the parrot escaped. The next day, seeing that the lion had not eaten the Nazarenes, Lucifer said, let's see if a few weeks of slave labor will loosen their tongues. And so it was that Daniel, Mishael, and Azariah were taken to the field where the slaves slept. For lo, The slaves did not have homes, but slept in a field surrounded by a fence. Behold, the Nasarean lions had succeeded in their mission, for they were now amongst the slaves, and began to spread word of the coming liberation. Yea, by birds they sent messages to Noah and received messages from Noah. The plan was made to rescue the animals and slaves from Attila, for the island would be submerged beneath mighty waters. Right. Now we're all the way at chapter 11, but it's already on my channel if you want to go finish. If you didn't know, and if you haven't seen it, you can finish the whole story, because the seraphim and Lucifer get blinged from wherever they're at on the earth in a few more verses and put onto their sky ships and flung into outer space. That's what happened during the flood of Noah, according to the Holy Megillah. Lucifer and the seraphim were banished from this world, but their children and their offspring and all their little human servants were still here. And that's what Noah and them had to deal with after this. But the island was sunk. It wasn't like a flood, like of a worldwide flood, right? But we're gonna I was gonna jump over and look at the King James again, but I think there's somewhere else where they get thrown in a fire, in a furnace or something in this book of Daniel, I think. But chapter 6 is where Daniel is thrown in the lion's den in the King James, and the lion didn't eat him, and the king was so happy. I think this was King Darius. So Daniel had been in his position for a minute, a couple of kings, Cyrus, Nebuchadnezzar, and by this time, this king, Darius, I don't even know why he signed this decree. He should have known, but he didn't think about it. But Daniel, he loved Daniel. And after the king saw that Daniel didn't get eaten, the king ordered all those men that conspired. I don't know if you know this story, but it's Daniel chapter 6. Go read it if you don't know what I'm talking about. But there was a bunch of guys, they conspired to get Daniel thrown in the lion's den. And when the lion didn't eat Daniel, the king ordered for those men and their wives and their children to get thrown into the lion's den. And so the lions ate all those men and their wives and their children, it says. Now, I'm going to say one thing about the King Jimmy. It promotes death and killing. It does. It really does. It's like a poster board for killing. There's so many side-by-sides I've done, like Elijah, where in the Holy Megillah he saves 450 pagan priests. But in the King James, he actually slays. It says he slew 450 priests, pagan priests. So the stories are like, the Holy Megillah promotes life and longevity and love and all this stuff. But you have this King James that is always in every story, innocent people die. And they were just written in this energy to promote the killing. And if the egregors that I'm trying to bring to people's attention, and how what you think is what manifests in the world. We're co-creators. We're creating this reality by our thoughts and our deeds. Now we know we're creating the bodies, claws and fangs, from our deeds and our thoughts. Well, just believing that, like the king Darius threw all these men and their wives and their children to the lions, just believing that is like gonna affect this reality. So we have to get rid of a lot of these false beliefs and stuff, and keep reading the Megillah. All right, guys, I'm gonna rest my fingers up and probably be back outside tomorrow. Today was like such a perfect day. Whenever it's cool out here, I don't have to worry about the bugs, but so I like to spend those days outside most of the time. But when it gets too hot to be out there, I'm gonna be throwing these videos out like water. But all right, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned.